Hi everyone, this is William from the Headphone Experience. I'm here tonight with a comparison between two of my favorite headphones. This is a comparison and not a shootout. I'm not trying to determine a winner here because I love both of these headphones. What I'm trying to do is talk about the differences because they do sound quite a bit different, and one is an open back, one is a closed back, but they're both from Kennerton. So this is a comparison of the Kennerton Thror, which is their flagship open back headphone, and the Kennerton Rognir, the Planar version, which is their flagship closed back headphone. And there's basically two reasons I'm doing this video. The first is that I recently reviewed the Rognir Planar version, and I've had a lot of people ask me, well, is it better than the Thror? How does it compare to the Thror? Because they're a similar price, and a lot of people, very few people are going to have both. And a lot of people want to, if they're going to put that kind of money into a headphone, they want to know what they're getting. And because they are different headphones, and I think one is better for one type of music, the other's better for another type of music. So I decided, instead of trying to answer this question to a lot of people, which is better, which I like, and there is no better as far as I'm concerned. I think they're both great headphones. They're just different in some ways, and that's what I'm here to talk about tonight. The second reason I'm doing this is right now the American dollar is very strong against the euro, and Kennerton headphones, as you probably know, are made in St. Petersburg, Russia, and their base price is based in euros. Well, right now, the exchange rate is, it's only $1.02 in American dollars to equal €1. And it's more like about $1.15, $1.17, somewhere in there. So this is actually the best exchange rate I've seen. So right now, if you want to buy a Kennerton headphone using US dollars, this is a great time to do it, because it actually makes, on a headphone of this price, it actually makes about a $500 difference in what it's going to cost you. So the prices are quite a bit lower than they were a couple months ago buying these with US dollars because of the great exchange rate right now. So anyway, the Thror, and I'll give you a look at that. The Thror currently, this is the open back, and this currently sells for $3,263 in US dollars, and that's at today's exchange rate. And then the Rognir Planar, this currently sells for $3,325 US dollars. And but this one here, this happens to be stabilized Carillion birch, and this version is a little more expensive. This one does go for $37.28 in US dollars, and there's several different wood choices in both of these, and but I think the Carillion birch is the most expensive of all the different woods. The Thror I showed you, this is in Zebrano wood. But anyway, I'll give you a closer look at both of these headphones in a few minutes. But these are, like I said, they're both made by Kennerton Audio out of St. Petersburg, Russia. They're both full size, they're both wired, they're both over the ear, but the Thror is an open back and the Rognir is a closed back. There is another version of the Rognir, and that sells for quite a bit less, that uses a dynamic driver, and it's called the Rognir Dynamic. Anyway, both of these headphones, I thought that they use the exact same driver, but I was reading Kennerton's website, and it looks like there is a slight difference. They're both 80mm planar magnetic drivers. They both have a carbon fiber back, the base of them, the frame. I'm looking for the right word. Anyway, the backing plate, I think that would be what it's called, is made of carbon fiber on both of these. but I did notice in the description of the Rognir planar that it uses a reinforced Captain membrane, which is because it's a closed back headphone. I guess the membrane needs to be reinforced. So anyway, both of these, because the driver is very similar, almost identical, they both have an impedance of 42 ohms, and they both have a sensitivity of 100 decibels at 1 milliwatt. So it takes pretty much the identical amount of power to power both of these headphones. The efficiency is pretty much identical on these. The Thror weighs in at 480 grams, and these numbers are going to change a little bit with different types of woods. But according to their website, and I forgot what the exact weight of both of these are. I've reviewed both of these, and but I don't remember. But anyway, according to the website, the Thror is a little bit heavier at 480 grams, and I'm sure that's because of the different headband, and I'll show you the headbands close up in a few minutes. The Rognir comes in at 452 grams, and I'll go ahead and give you a close-up look at both of these right now. I'll start with the Thror. And once again, this is zebrano wood, and this is not a veneer or anything like that. That was carved out of or machined out of a solid piece of wood here. And the frames, the yokes are aluminum, and this is the big difference in these two headphones is the headband. This is the older style of headband. And I've had these about 3 years now. I reviewed these quite a while ago, and I liked these so much that I ended up buying these from Kennerton and have been using them for 3 years now. It's my reference pretty much to measure all other headphones by. That's how much I like these. But anyway, this older style of headband, it uses aluminum yoke with a screw connection here that clamps down on this top part of the yoke that's kind of dished out. And not only can you adjust the yoke up and down, but you can actually rotate it forward and back and then clamp it down exactly where you want it. And then the head strap up here, this is covered with real lambskin leather. And the ear pads are lambskin leather. And I did want to mention that these ear pads on here, I just put these on a short time ago. The Thror came with the ECL01 ear pads, and then I ended up switching to the ECL02, which had smaller perforations in them, because I liked the sound better. It made them slightly warmer and a little bit more bass. Well, I recently tried these, and I believe these are called ECL01 memory foam. The difference is these have a real soft memory foam in them, and I think these do have the larger perforations. I think they're ECL01, but this is the memory foam version, and I like these because it actually it does give these headphones a little bit more bass, both bass and sub bass, and without really affecting the mid-range. In fact, I think the mid-range becomes even cleaner and better with these. So this pair right now, I'm running with the ECL01 memory foam version pads, and you can see they're tapered. And anyway, let me give you a close-up look at the Rognir. And once again, we're looking at a ear cup that's machined out of one solid piece of wood, and this is the Carillion stabilized birch. And the headband's quite different on this, and I will be honest, even though this headband is lighter weight and this headband is probably more comfortable, I really like the old style of headbands, and I personally wish that the Rognir was available with the older style of headbands. But these are, most people would probably prefer these because they're lighter and have a little less clamping force and they're more comfortable. But anyway, this is made of I think a spring steel that runs all the way through. Then it's got a self-adjusting headband, and one big advantage to this version, this headband, is if you're going to be sharing this with other people, you don't have to mess with it. You just put it on and it self-adjusts, and the next person puts it on, it self-adjusts, and you don't have to mess with it. With the Thror, it's set, it's clamped, and that style of headband, if two people are sharing it, it's kind of a hassle because it does take a while, you know, a little bit of work to get that adjusted right. First you gotta get the height right, then you gotta rotate it and get it just right so it seals up on the front and back of your ears. I like that better because I'm not sharing it, and once I get it set, it stays exactly where I want it. I can put my, you know, ear cups angled exactly how I want it, and they stay there. Where this one doesn't do that, but once again, if you're going to share it, this is a lot better system. But anyway, very comfortable. It's got the same thing. The ear pads are tapered. They're lambskin leather. They're very, very soft. Same with the headband, lambskin leather. These here, this headphone, I tried 3 different ear pads on this. The pads that come stock on it are non-tapered. They're like the thinner side of this. They're non-perforated. This is actually the ear pads that come on the dynamic version of this headphone. And they're memory foam, also very, very soft. But I tried 3 different ear pads, including the ear pads that I now have on the Thror, and those I didn't really like on this headphone. They give the Thror more bass, and I tried them on the Odin actually. Also gave it more bass, but they give this headphone less bass. Makes it pretty much neutral. If you want this headphone to be very neutral, then that ear pad is the way to go. And then the one that comes stock on this, on the Rognir, the non-tapered, is kind of your middle of the road, which gives you incredible sub bass. And then this version, the planar, not the planar, the dynamic pad from the dynamic Rognir, these are tapered but non-perforated. These give it the most bass and give it just the best sub bass I've ever heard from any headphone. And a little bit warmer mid-range, and I've got these on right now. I really like them. I believe these are called the ECL03 memory foam, I believe is the way they're being sold now. If you want a pair, you can get them, and I think they go for about $75 a pair. Once again, they're memory foam and real lambskin leather, and very, very soft and comfortable. Anyway, before I get into my comparison of these, and I've got about, I don't know, maybe about 15 categories, and I'll try to go through them fairly quickly. I don't want to make this video an hour long, but anyway, as far as amps I use to compare these headphones and review them, I use the Audio GD Master 9, the Burson Conductor 3 Reference, the Felix Audio Echo, the 2 different Waveborn amps, the Edelweiss 3 Preamp Plus and Power Amp Plus. The Preamp Plus is an OTL type amp, and the Power Amp Plus is a transformer coupled amp. And also the Singzer SA1 and the Hi-Fi Man EF400. And then as far as DACs, primarily I used the Topping D70S MQA version. I used, and mostly the Audio GD R8 MK2, which is an R2R DAC, and for a while, I can't remember, I think I had it when yeah, I did. Well, I still had the Denafrips Pontus 2 while I had the, well, I was reviewing the Rognir, so got to try that with both of these headphones, and that's actually my absolute favorite, but just barely a tiny bit behind that would be the Audio GD R8 MK2. Really, really like that DAC. So anyway, so I had some pretty nice amps. Oh, I also had the Wells Audio Dragon, which is a hybrid tube amp, and got to try that with these. So anyway, getting into the sound, I'll start with the tone balance. And the Thror, I would say the tone balance is pretty close to neutral, with just a slightly on the warm side of neutral mid-range. And then the Rognir, I would say, and it depends on the ear pads, but I would say with the ear pads that I have on it now, it's definitely got a little bit of emphasis in the sub bass and in the bass. And like I said, by switching ear pads, you can make it more neutral if that's the direction you want to go. As far as frequency extension, I would say they both extend equally into the treble. They have very similar treble, but the Rognir, because it's a closed back, definitely has more extension into the sub bass. It goes quite a bit lower and has quite a bit more weight in the sub bass. So that's first thing as far as sound I wanted to talk about, and that would be sub bass. The Thror is a very neutral headphone, and it has sub bass, but it's not emphasized at all. It's there, but it doesn't jump out at you, where the Rognir has the absolute, even with the stock ear pads, has incredible sub bass, and in fact the best I've ever heard. And with the dynamic ear pads on it, it's even better. It has more weight, and I mean, it just has some solid low bass with a lot of thump to it, but it's very clean, very tight, and very well controlled. Getting into the mid bass, the Thror has very respectable mid bass, but not really emphasized. It's on a neutral level. With these ear pads that I have on it now, the ECL01 memory foam, it does give it a slight emphasis in the mid bass, maybe 3 or 4 decibels. So I actually really like it with this ear pad. As far as mid bass, the Rognir, with these ear pads, the thing has a pretty heavy emphasis and a lot of weight to the mid bass, but once again, like the sub bass, it's very tight, very clean, very well controlled, has a lot of texture to it and a lot of detail in it. I've never heard sub bass and bass that I thought was done as well as this headphone with the dynamic pad. The mid bass and sub bass is just so perfect in my opinion. It's just so well controlled and so tight. I've heard other headphones that have a similar amount or similar weight to the bass, but not as controlled. Getting into the mids, the Thror, actually kind of prefer the mids on the Thror. The Thror, the mids are a little warmer, a little richer, a little more lush, where the mids on the Rognir are, especially with the stock pads, they're a little more, they're more detailed, they're more clean, but a little, I would describe the mids as very neutral. They almost at times can sound almost analytical because they're so detailed, but so I really like the mids on the Rognir, and the dynamic pads do warm up the mids a little bit, a little on the warm side of neutral, actually significantly. That's part of the reason I'm using these pads, because they do warm up the mid-range and just give it more richness, more of a creamy sound, because I used to be into really super detailed neutral mids, and now I like my mids a little warmer, a little richer, and you know, even if I have to sacrifice a little detail, but that doesn't happen with the Rognir. And like I said, the Thror, the mids are just, they're just richer, you know, they're just a little warmer. So I actually prefer the mids on the Thror for that reason. The treble is almost identical on both headphones. I don't hear a lot of difference. They both extend well. The treble is very clean, very detailed, has good sparkle, but neither one to me ever sounds harsh or fatiguing. I really like the treble on both of them. It was done well and pretty much equal between the two of them. Detail and resolution. The Thror has very, very good detail. Up until the Rognir, I thought it was easily one of the most detailed headphones I've heard. Okay, the Hi-Fi Man Aria, and this would be the stealth version, I thought actually came in with even more detail than the Thror. But then I got the Rognir Planar, and it's on the same level as the Aria. So right now, the most detailed headphones I've ever heard would be the stealth version of the Aria, and not the older version, but the stealth version, and the Rognir. I mean, the Rognir is up there in detail with that headphone. It's actually on a level above every other headphone I've heard up to this point. Just super incredible detail on the Rognir, but not taking anything away from the Thror. It has fantastic detail. The Soundstage, the Rognir has a very large soundstage for a closed back headphone. Usually a closed back headphone, you're going to have a smaller, especially as far as width, you're going to have a more narrow soundstage. The Rognir actually has a very wide soundstage for a closed back, on a level with most, in fact better than some open backs, but on a level with a good open back is the width of the soundstage on the Rognir. The Thror is even wider. The Thror has a very large soundstage. It's up with some of the best headphones. The Rognir has good depth to the soundstage. The Thror, though, has even better depth. The Thror has more depth and more layering, more of a 3D sound than any headphone I've heard up to this point. The Rognir isn't far behind, but the Thror, being an open back, does have a little more width, a little more depth, and just more of an open, larger sound to it. But like I said, the Rognir is exceptional for a closed back headphone. Excuse me just a second. Please excuse the sound of the fan behind me and the air conditioner, but midsummer in southern Missouri, and it's hot, and my office here is up in the loft, and it gets hot up here. So anyway, getting into imaging, the Thror images very well. It very precise, exceptional separation between instruments. It's very easy to locate every instrument. The Rognir is even better. The Rognir Planar version, excuse me, is the most precise imaging headphone I've heard so far. And I mean, there's a lot of headphones I haven't heard, but I have heard quite a few high-end headphones. And so far the Rognir, and other people have repeated this, I've made comments about it, and other people have agreed that the Rognir Planar just has the most precise imaging I've heard of any headphone that I've ever listened to. It's so precise that I've heard movement in instruments that I never noticed on any other headphone, because just you can hit just tiny little movements, you can detect them, because instead of the sound of an instrument coming from a large area, it's coming from a little tiny area, and if it moves at all, you can hear that. Same thing with moving in and out, just really small changes, you can hear that. So Rognir, like I said, the Thror, great imaging. The Rognir, the best, most precise imaging I've ever heard. Dynamics. The Thror has good dynamics. It's a pretty punchy headphone, but the Rognir is more dynamic. It has, especially in the bass. Sub-bass, mid-bass, really punchy. But even up into the upper bass, the mid-range, it's just a really dynamic headphone. As far as listening fatigue, I would say both of them are pretty low in listening fatigue. Neither one of them has any harshness to the treble. The Thror has that nice kind of warm mid-range, And neither one of them, I would say the only thing about the two that could be fatiguing is the Rognir is a pretty dynamic, pretty punchy headphone, and if you got the volume up too loud or you're listening to really bass heavy music, that bass could at some point, it could get to you, it could wear you out a little bit, and you might have to take them off and take a little bit of a break. What next? Forgiveness. And by forgiveness, I mean, how forgiving is this headphone of less than perfect recordings? And I would say they're both pretty forgiving. Even though they both have exceptional detail, the Thror, that warm mid-range on it, the mid-range is where you're going to hear most like background hisses and any noise in the recording and all that, and it doesn't emphasize it, so it's pretty forgiving. And then the Rognir with that nice warm bass, and especially recordings that are shy on bass, the Rognir, it's got some weight to the bass that's going to bring it out. And a lot of classic rock, I've noticed that in older classic rock recordings, that on a neutral headphone just sound kind of thin and kind of boring, and because they didn't put emphasis on in the music from especially the 60s and 70s, old rock from the 60s and 70s. That music was recorded to sound good on a big home stereo with some big speakers and in your living room. But now most music's recorded to sound good with a pair of earbuds or IEMs or something. So music now has a lot more weight to the bass. But the music back then, they didn't do that because it would sound bad, with a big set of home speakers. So listening with headphones, you listen to, old rock from the 60s and 70s, and most of it just seems kind of thin and lacking in bass. And so a neutral headphone isn't ideal for that music. So the Rognir, especially with the planar pads or the dynamic pads, really gives that bass some weight, makes it sound really good. So, as far as older recordings that just don't sound that good, I think the Rognir makes them, can really bring them out, make them sound good. So I wanted to mention isolation, and that's not a fair comparison because the Thror is an open back, and like most open backs, it gives you almost no isolation whatsoever. The Thror, you put it on, it doesn't block out any sound from the outside. You're going to hear voices, you're going to hear a fan, you're going to hear an air conditioner, just the same as if you have nothing on your head. It's not going to keep any sound out, and it's not going to keep much in either. With the Thror, if you're listening to it, people in the room with you are going to hear your music. It's not as bad as some headphones, but it does let quite a bit of sound out. Where the Rognir, being a closed back, it actually has very good isolation, and it's better than most closed backs I've heard. It's one of the best. It substantially cuts out the outside noise coming in, and it's really nice. I really like it for that reason, because I can put it in and just the outside world just kind of disappears. I'm in my own little universe with my Rognirs on, and don't hear anything else. Loud sound, they're gonna leak through, you're gonna hear it. But most, sounds, from like the other room, quiet voices stuff, you're not gonna hear it, and it makes it easier to kind of escape and kind of just drift into your music and become part of the music, and like I said, your own little universe. So the Rognir definitely wins in the isolation category, both keeping outside sounds out, and it also does a very good job of keeping the music inside the headphones. You'd have to listen to the Rognir very loud before anyone's going to hear your music. So I did want to mention amp requirements, and these headphones both are pretty efficient. These are substantially, even though they're planar magnetic, are substantially easier to drive than most hi-fi man planar magnetics. That would include the Sandara, the Edition XS, all that. These are actually quite easy to drive and don't require a lot of amp. And Kennerton planar magnetic headphones actually, to me, sound really good on OTL type tube amps. And OTL type tube amps usually aren't recommended for low impedance headphones, and they're not recommended for planar magnetics because planar magnetics usually require a lot of current for the bass to be the way it should sound. And OTL tube amps can put out plenty of voltage, but they have trouble putting out current. Well, because the Kennerton planars are very efficient, they don't need as much current and actually sound very good on OTL type tube amps like the Felix Audio Echo and the Wadeborn Preamp Plus. Both of these headphones sound really good on those OTL amps. So neither one needs a lot of power. You don't need a big huge amp, with 2, 3 watts, 10 watts. You don't need anything like that. I mean, a 1 watt amp is going to be more than sufficient, but both of these headphones scale really well. So the better the amp, the better these headphones are going to sound. So, so even though a little amp, like say this little, the iFi Zendek behind me, it has plenty of power, but neither of these headphones is going to sound as good through something like that as compared to like my Audio GD Stack, or a nice tube amp or something. I mean, don't get me wrong, this is a great little amp DAC for 129 bucks, but a headphone like this deserves something more, I mean, with the right amp, these headphones can just keep getting better and better. So, comfort. I did want to compare the comfort. That one I have to give to the Rognir. It's a little bit lighter, and once again, because of this headband, it's got a little bit less clamping force, and it's just a little bit more, it is more comfortable. This is a very comfortable headphone. I have no issues with the Thror, but I have heard some people. I think this is the reason for the change of the headband. And I did want to mention that the Thror does still come with this headband. This is a 3-year-old headphone, 3.5 years old. But the Thror does still come with this headband, and I actually wish the Rognir came with it, but it is a little less comfortable. To me, as far as looks, this has just got it all over the new headband. But like I said, it's a little bit heavier, but the Thror does have a little bit more clamping pressure. But the fact is, though, this you could stretch this a little bit, maybe put some on this and hold it open for a while, or maybe bend this a little. You could lessen that clamping pressure if you wanted. But like I said, it's a little heavier, not quite as comfortable. I have, heard a few people that have tried on the older Kennerton headphones, because several of them used to come with this. The Odin had this at one time, and the Valley had this at one time, and I don't remember what else. But anyway, and not everyone was happy with this headband, but I personally like it a lot. Price, these headphones are both very close. They're within less than $100 of each other, so price isn't really an issue when they're that close and you're talking about a $3,200 or $3,300 headphone. I did want to point something out, and I was going to show you this a while ago, but this is a cable that the Thror came with. And it's it's a high quality cable. I really like it. It's got a real nice cloth cover. It's very soft. It's flexible. It's got a 6.3 millimeter connection at the amp end. And I did want to mention both of these headphones use the same 4-pin mini XLR connections at the ear cups. But this cable, it's 2 meters long, which is about 6.5 feet, and it's a very nice cable. This is what came with the Thror when I got it 3.5 years ago. It doesn't specify on their website, but from the photo it looks like it still comes with the same cable. The Rognir, on the other hand, comes with this really, really nice cable. I mean, the nicest cable I've ever seen come with any headphone. It's a braided design. It has a full-size 4-pin XLR connection at the amp end, and once again uses the mini XLR connections at the headphone end. But anyway, this is still about, I think it's 2 meters, about 6.5 feet. Very, extremely soft, extremely flexible, doesn't make any noise rubbing on itself. I mean, this is probably, you know, a $250, $300 cable, maybe more. And you'll notice it comes with the 4-pin XLR, and not everyone has a 4-pin XLR amp. So this headphone, and I believe this is still the case, comes with an adapter that takes you from 4-pin XLR to 6.3 millimeter, which is great as far as using this headphone to compare amps. If I'm going to compare 2 amps and one has a 4-pin XLR connection and the other doesn't, it has 6.3, instead of having to switch cables to go back and forth between the 2 amps, I can plug this into the amp that has the 6.3 and then just unplug the cable from the amp with the XLR and plug it into this and go back and forth that way. So I love this. I needed one of these for a long time, and this actually comes with the Rognir, and I believe it still does. I mean, this Rognir, I received this back around Christmas, and fortunately I'm able to hold on to it for a little while, because this has pretty much become my reference as far as comparing to other headphones and all that. But that one's gonna, I'm hoping I don't have to ever let that one go. But anyway, so price isn't really an issue. They're very close to each other. Did want to mention female vocals. And I listen to a lot of music with female vocals, and because that female vocals and acoustic music to me are the best tools to measure a headphone. If a headphone can make those things sound natural and real, that to me is a good headphone, and not every headphone can do that. A lot of headphones, female vocals just don't sound real to me. I mean, with the right headphone, it can just sound like, you know, that person is just right in front of me, right there, and I'm just listening to that person. No headphones, no speakers, you know, and that's what I look for. And as far as female vocals, I actually prefer the Thror over the Rognir. That part of the frequency response of the Thror is a little bit warmer and a little bit richer, and to me, I just prefer the way female vocals sound. There's not a huge difference. Like I said, the Rognir is just a little closer to neutral, and it depends on the earpads. But anyway, the Rognir is really good, makes female vocals sound really, really good. The Thror is even better. The Thror is one of the best headphones I've ever heard as far as female vocals. It just does a really, really good job. Give me a second here. I'm going to try to wrap this video up here pretty quick because it's getting pretty long, and usually don't have to take 2 drinks in one video. But I did work outside today and it was hot. Anyway, appearance, these are both beautiful headphones. I mean, they're incredible. But I actually like the looks of the headband on the Thror better, so because of that, I kind of give that one to the Thror. I really do like this old style headband. I just really like the way it looks. It's just got a very cool look to it. Anyway, so what does it come down to? I love both of these headphones. The Thror is one of my absolute favorite headphones, one of my favorite open back headphones. There's a couple others that I really like and are pretty close. I recently reviewed the ZMF Atrium, and it comes pretty close, but I still think the Thror, because of the Thror has a little more depth of the Soundstage and a little more detail, and I'd give it a narrow victory for that. But So the Thror is probably still my absolute favorite open back. Really, really like it, and I actually prefer the Thror as far as probably jazz, acoustic, and orchestral music. I would say if I was going to listen to one of those three types of music and I had either of these headphones to pick from, I would probably pick the Thror. It's got the little larger, a little wider, a little deeper soundstage, a little more open sound, and things like acoustic instruments and female voices and all that. I prefer the Thror a little bit for that type of music. And then the Rognir, because of that extra weight and the dynamics and the bass and the sub-bass extension, if I'm going to listen to rock, just about any kind of rock, everything from classic rock to all the way to like industrial, that sort of thing, I'm going to pick the Rognir because of that solid bass and the punch. Pop music and electronic, like electronic dance music and stuff. That bass is so incredible in the Rognir. I would pick it for those types of music. So I know, having both of these headphones at the same time probably isn't going to be an option for many people. They're both great for all these types of music. I mean, I could live with either of these the rest of my life, and I could listen to jazz, acoustic, everything with the Rognir, and I could listen to rock and pop and electronic with the Thror. They're both great, but I think the Thror is a little bit better at some types of music, and the Rognir is a little bit better for other types of music. So, but they're both outstanding in my opinion. The Rognir could be my favorite headphone right now of any headphone I've ever heard. It's that good. So both incredible headphones. They're both a little bit different. If you want some, emphasis to the bass and the best sub bass you probably ever heard, the Rognir is probably the way to go. If you want an incredible soundstage and open sound and layering, I mean, the Thror layers and has depth like no other headphone I've heard. Some are very good. Once again, the ZMF Atrium has a very good soundstage and very good layering, but I think the Thror just has a little bit more depth to it. But anyway. And I did want to mention there is another version of the Thror, and I think it costs about $100 more, $110 more. It's called the Thror Navel, and I haven't seen it, I haven't heard it. The ear cups are slightly different. It looks like they're a little bit thicker maybe. But anyway, according to the description from Kennerton, the Thror Navel is only made with the most premium woods. They don't hit, and I think it's limited. I think it said that there's only like 30 pairs being made. So it's a little bit more expensive, and I think the woods are a little more expensive. I don't know if it sounds the same or not. I've never heard it, and I've never heard any opinions of the Thror Navel, whether it has a different sound than the regular Thror, but I just wanted to toss that out there. So, I'm going to leave it up to you. I'm not going to say I recommend one of these headphones over the other. I would say it does have make a difference what type of music you're going to listen to, but these both work really well with just about any type of music. So a big part of the decision is probably going to be, do you want an open back or a closed? If you need the isolation of a closed back, then the Rognir is definitely the way to go. If you don't need the isolation and an open back's going to work for you, maybe the Thror is the way to go. So, but anyway, I don't see how you could go wrong with either. I love both of these headphones. I've had the Thror for 3.5 years and still love it. And the Rognir I've had, 6 months now or so, and still really enjoy the Rognir. And both, it's really easy to change the ear pads, and Kennerton sells like 3-4 different types of ear pads. Once you've done it a few times, you can change it in about 3 minutes. Very easy, and it does significantly change the sound, especially on the Rognir. The Rognir switching between the 3 different sets of ear pads that I tried makes a significant difference in the tone balance. You can go anywhere from basically neutral with good sub-bass extension to a warm sound with a pretty heavy emphasis on the bass. A sound that even a bass head would probably enjoy. So you can change the sound quite a bit just by changing ear pads. So anyway, like I said, I love both of these headphones, and I think most of you would probably be happy with either one of these, and I'm going to wrap it up with that. So once again, this is William from the Headphone Experience. If this video has helped you, please give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already, and you're all welcome to join us over at the Headphone Experience on Facebook, and we're up to 17.9 thousand members over there, and just keep growing. So hope to see you over there. Once again, thanks for watching my video.